fact, 9 days have passed since he tested positive. And if he's hospitalized, which I suspect he will be, the 30-day period doesn't kick in until he actually starts serving his hospitalization and being rehabilitated as an inpatient.
So the thought about him who's missing 4 games, it may be more than 4 games.
He could miss 5, he could miss 6 games. And if he missed 5 games, he'd miss another Redskin game, which I think is going to hurt the Giants' chances.
I understand that a couple of Bears have been found to have drugs in their urine.
That's right. Today, the NFL announced that Richard Dent and Calvin Thomas have tested positive, and they're going to be suspended for 30 days. Dent, ironically, was suspended not for testing positive, but for refusing to take a second drug test.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's an ugly scene in the NFL, isn't it?
It really is. I remember when I started covering football, Nick, we were writing about players and blocking and tackling, not drugs and contract hassles.
Gordon, let's talk about trades. The one that Jim Lachey going to the Raiders, Los Angeles Raiders. We just had Jim on our program. And it was a straight-up deal supposedly for offensive tackle John Clay, but you have information that says it's more than that.
Well, the Chargers are going to end up acquiring halfback Napoleon McCallum. You remember he played for the Raiders on loan, so to speak, from the Navy. And then he was forced into naval duty again. But I think the Chargers are talking to the naval officials, and by the end of this week, they may know whether they have McCallum for this season or whether they'll have to wait and get him next year.
You know, 2 things are happening, I believe, with the Philadelphia Eagles. One is, I think, Buddy Ryan has that team on the move. He's got great players in Randall Cunningham, but one guy who he really needed to play well was Reggie White. And I said Reggie White had a problem with his contract. Has that been rectified?
Well, White almost walked out of camp, and then he saw that Cunningham got a $4.1 million deal. And I've learned that White is also going to get a deal, maybe not as lucrative as Cunningham's, but up around $3.8, $3.9 million, which will make him the highest-paid defensive lineman in the league.
Well, I guess Norman Braman's going to have to sell a few more Cadillacs to pay White and Cunningham's contract.
What about Tony Dorsett? Let's talk about him, the newest Denver Bronco. Now, he did not get off to a very good start. Now, he's going to play again this week. What do you think his chances of doing better this week are?
Well, Len, things aren't going to get easy for Dorsett this week. Clarence Kay, one of the best blocking tight ends in the league, is out with a bruised spinal cord. And Dorsett usually likes to run behind that big tight end and cut inside of him and cut against the grain. So he's going to be missing Kay, and it's going to be a tough week for him.
Gordon, thank you very much for being on the show this week. We're looking forward to having you on the show each and every week during this season.
That means to us.
Now, a very popular segment on our show is Where Are They Now? And when you listen to the voice who narrates it, it's going to be very familiar because it's the old cowboy, Curt Gowdy. And the first guest this week is an ex-cowboy, a Dallas cowboy by the name of Peter Gent. And he shocked the sporting world when he came out with his book called North Dallas 40.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but the wine and the song, like the seasons have all gone. We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but the wine and the song, like the seasons have all gone.
Jimmy Wynn, sports personality, a legendary folk hero. Oh, yes, mind if I do? Would you like Cody? Does the shark in the sea? Come on, there. One for me. Breakfast for champions there. Nectar in the gods. Yes.
That's the way it was. I mean, it's not like I was saying things that didn't happen. I was just recounting my experiences. Well, I was surprised that it was controversial. People who are around the game know that drugs are a necessary technology. I mean, the line better football through chemistry, the whole idea of the necessity of drugs, anybody who's been in the game for any length of time knows that drugs are used.
In 1973, Peter Gent stunned the sporting world with North Dallas 40, a very different look at the big leagues. Drawing on his 5 years as a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, Gent exposed the humiliating and brutal realities that football players took for granted. It was no secret the maverick individual wrote a first-hand indictment of the All-American Cowboy image, headed by their legendary head coach, Tom Landry.
You know, you can be a head football coach in professional football, or you can be a true Christian. But I don't think decisions that were, the bottom line, they knew were bad for the player in the long run, but were good for the team.
Examining the quality of life in the NFL, Gent produced 2 more classic novels. Next up is his long-awaited sequel, North Dallas After 40, reflecting on the transitions of a middle-aged ex-football player. But Gent's real masterpiece is his 12-year-old son, Carter. Residing in the tranquil setting of western Michigan, they are afforded the luxury of time together. Being a single parent, this is of paramount concern to Peter.
The most important thing to me when I'm writing is that I know that he's having a good time, so that's off my mind. I know he's okay, and his life's going fine that day, so I can concentrate on what I'm working on.
You know, it's been 15 years since we've learned about the quality of life at the North Dallas 40. At first dismissed for its eccentricities and inaccuracies, there's no doubt now Peter Gent's convictions are still to be reckoned with.
My contribution in the game, if there is any, I would like to feel that I've raised the consciousness of people about the mentality and character of football players. That they're not all the same. They're not all animals, and a lot of them are very, very bright, sensitive people who are living very difficult lives and doing a good job of it.
You know, when Pete Gent wrote that book, North Dallas 40, he really took a risk. Sure, maybe the movie was exaggerated a little bit, but you know something, as you look at the current drug problems the players are having, you know that he was way ahead of his time.
When that book came out, it shocked so many people. I think because it was Dallas, America's team. They were supposed to have this clean-cut image. But there was a portion of that segment that really was real to me when the guys were drinking beer and popping pills. I can recall on several occasions teammates of mine before a game taking pills. Now, I don't know where these pills came from, but they always seemed to be available. And I heard a lot of them say, hey, I'm not going to play by myself out there today.
You know something, Lane? The NFL really has to be holding their breath right now, waiting for Gent's new book called Life After 40. I'm sure one thing for sure, it will be revealing.
We're glad to have that segment back in the show. We're also very happy that returning once again is the diary segment, only this time we've expanded it. We're calling it the NFL Forum. Each week we're going to have a different person from the National Football League on. This week, the number 1 week is the Heisman Trophy winner, the number 1 draft choice of the Raiders, Tim Brown.
Raiders? 2 years ago was Howie Long of the Raiders. Last year was Todd Christensen of the Raiders. Now Tim Brown of the Raiders.
Yes, but this young man attended your alma mater, Notre Dame.
Oh, then that was an excellent choice.
I thought that you would see it that way. Well, let's find out what young Tim Brown has to say after his sensational debut against the Chargers.
Go right fullback slam. Set high, man. Set high. Let's go.
You know, folks, 5 months ago on draft day, never in my wildest dreams did I think my first week in the NFL would go as great as it did. As a Heisman Trophy winner coming into training camp, I couldn't help but think about all those Heisman flops and hoping that I wouldn't be one of them. When the preseason came along, I pretty much realized I'd made the team. But that doesn't mean I didn't have butterflies going into these practice games. Because in college, there are no practice games. Every game is for real. It was tough for me to adjust to the idea that these games, quote-unquote, didn't count. So when the real season came along, I wasn't really feeling any of the pressure you might think. Because for me, I already had 4 games under my belt. And even though they were talking about trading me, I found that I was able to stay pretty focused on what I had to do on game day. If anything, it made me go out and play harder. It also made me realize I was in the NFL, and this is a big money business. So I couldn't let these trade talks affect my performance on the field. Also, unlike college ball, where I was a big part of the team winning, on the Raiders, when you play with the likes of Marcus Allen, Howie Long, Willie Gard, and James Wilson, it has a way of taking a lot of pressure off a rookie and makes me realize in the NFL, it really takes more than one person to win.